coming up from the Northeast Live Studios in Guwahati. Northeast Tonight with Wasbir Hussain.
Hello and welcome to Northeast Tonight, the show that decodes the region. There have been quite a few major developments in the Naga peace front, developments that are expected to provide a push to the stalled dialogue process. The core committee, comprising elected representatives belonging to the main ruling and opposition parties, have met both the NSCN-IM and the 7-member NNPGs and have urged both entities to sit together and resolve their differences so as to present a common voice to the Government of India. Both the NSCN-IM as well as the NNPGs have said they have no differences with each other. The big question now is, will the NSCN-IM and the NNPGs sit together to sort out the differences in their approach to a final solution to the protracted Naga issue? On the other hand, the big political development in Nagaland has been the decision of the Nagaland People's Front, the state's main opposition party, to agree to joining the ruling PDA government in the state headed by Chief Minister Therieh. The NDPP has already met and has welcomed the NPF move, describing it as a bold decision. The BJP, also a component of the PDA, is not as clear as the NDPP, but is expected to back the move. Will these developments help break the stalemate in the Naga peace dialogue? That is the question. To discuss the subject, I am joined from Kohima by Naga HOHO General Secretary Mr. Ndang. From New Delhi, I am joined by Mr. Therieh, leader of the Naga Tribes Council. Joining me also from Kohima is Mr. Laji Luyanba, the Secretary of the 14 tribal HOHOs of Nagaland. And with me from Shillong is Dr. Xaviar, Professor of the Northeastern Hill University and a commentator. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Let me go straight to you, Mr. Ndang in Kohima, the General Secretary of the Naga HOHO. Mr. Ndang, there has been a lot of developments in the last couple of days. First, the core committee having its first meeting in Dimapur on the 9th of July. Within weeks, the core committee succeeded in having a meeting with all the negotiating parties, that is the 7-member NNPG and the NSCN-IM separately. And then, how do you view this development? Because after the meeting of the core committee, both the NSCN-IM and the NNPGs have said that they have no differences with each other. What does this indicate? How do you look at the development?
Well, looking back at the recent developments, I think we are heading towards positive steps. Now that the elected representatives have come forward, I find no reason why the political groups should be in different camps. This is the wishes of the people, the desire that has been expressed loud and clear by the elected representative. And we are also encouraged to see that both the groups, the NPGs, have publicly stated that they don't have any differences. They are willing to come together for one solution. And with this statement, we look forward that things in the days to come, things will move in the right direction.
Okay, we all hope things move in the right direction. Let me turn to you, Mr. Therieh in New Delhi, leader of the Naga Tribes Council. Mr. Therieh, what is your perspective? What do you make of these two critical meetings that the core committee had with the NNPGs and the NSCN-IM? What is your perspective? How are you looking at it?
Yeah, Mr. Wasbir, I think there's nothing new. The core committee or GLF, as far as the role of facilitation is concerned, it is good. But opposition-less government, 16 members coming to run the government. I think this is a little shocking. This is not required.
Okay, I will come back to you.
I could not get your question properly.
My question is, how do you view the core committee meeting the NSCN-IM and the NNPGs, and after this meeting, both the NSCN-IM and the NNPGs saying that they have no problem with each other, they have no differences with each other. Are you happy to hear this?
Yeah, meeting, facilitating, both the NSCN-IM and NNPGs is a good gesture, expressing our desire that they work together to sign a common agreement together. After all, the goal of the Nagas is same. There's absolute unity as far as Naga political aspiration is concerned. We have no division, irrespective of our territorial and other divisions, whether it be from IM or it be from unification or it be from NNC. There's absolute unity as far as our political aspiration is concerned. So signing on the same agreement, on the same paper, should not be a problem. So conveying the desire of the people to them, as far as this is concerned, this is okay.
Right. Now I'll expand on that. I'll come back to you, Mr. Theja Therieh. Don't go away. Mr. Laji Luyanba, Secretary of the 14 Tribal HOHOs of Nagaland. Mr. Laji Luyanba, do you think things from now on, do you think things will be positive? Do you think that some achievement, some breakthrough has been made? Do you think the dialogue process is going to resume after this critical meeting that the core committee had with the NNPGs and NSCN-IM? How do you look at it?
Well, till now, I haven't heard that the dialogue is stopped. But the concern is, when we look it positively, everything is done in the way that it should be, the desire of the people. So, as per the development that is going on now, it was a long cherished dreams of the people. And it has now been very much well concerned to the people that the people, both the national political parties of Nagaland and Naga political parties, both the things have just taken turn, irrespective of all political and ideological differences, coming together in one common platform, surely will pave a way for positive development at the earliest. That is the concern of the people.
All right. All right. Professor Xaviar Mao, you know, after this core committee meeting, we have got statements from both the NNPGs as well as the NSCN-IM. They're saying that we have no differences. But is it not true that the differences are very clear? There are very sharp differences actually, with the NSCN-IM saying that flag and the constitution are our core issues, whereas the NNPG saying that everything talks are over and that they are ready to sign on the dotted line. And NNPG also saying that there are many issues that can be solved even after an agreement is signed. But do you think things have changed now? How do you look at this statement that we have no differences?
Well, this statement that they have no differences clearly reflects that both the parties have the spirit of reconciliation and openness and also flexibility. I think that is very, very important. With that attitude of flexibility, I think things can be changed. The content, even the content of the constitution, etc., can be changed. And similarly, even from the government of India side also, if such openness and flexibility and the spirit of settling, I think that is a very good development. Instead of taking a very, very rigid stand, that is, thus far, if that attitude is there, I don't think there can be any serious breakthrough. So it is a positive development.
Right. Okay, Mr. Ndang, Professor Mao has made a very good point. Professor Mao thinks that the statements coming out from both the NSCN-IM as well as the NNPGs, wherein leaders of these two entities have said that we have no differences, according to Professor Mao, this indicates flexibility, and a flexible approach is always good when serious negotiations take place. Do you agree that, does it indicate to you also that the two entities are showing spirit of reconciliation?
Well, this coming together, sitting across the table is what we have been appealing to the various groups, the national workers. And yesterday's statement, I think, as I stated, it is very positive. And we can see the spirit of reconciliation. It is time has come for us to reconcile and move together. We cannot afford to hold on to our own ideologies and principles and avoiding each other. Time has come for us to come together.
Mr. Ndang, I know that you cannot speak on behalf of the NSCN-IM or the NNPGs, but as the leader of the Naga HOHO, do you also get this impression that the two groups, that is the NNPGs and the NSCN-IM, do you think they have understood the fact that they have to reconcile, they have to resolve their differences?
As far as the two NSCN-IM and the NNPGs are concerned, I may not be the appropriate person to pass on comments, but hopefully with the recent developments, we expect that both the groups will sit across the table and sort out the differences.
Now you see, I'll come to Mr. Theja, Therieh and Laji Luyanba for their comments. But Mr. Ndang, you know, the political parties, the major political parties in Nagaland, whether it is the ruling PDA or the opposition NPF, they have given out a clear message. Now that the opposition NPF has also decided to join the government and there will be no opposition in Nagaland, that is, of course, they are saying that this is for the purpose of pushing peace in Nagaland. This is with the whole sole idea of ushering in peace, giving a push to the peace process. Do you think this is a clear message to the Naga political groups also that they should also come up with a similar approach?
See, when the elected representative, the MLAs, those who represent the people, speak in one voice, I think that gives a very clear message to the Naga people, the whole population. And they are our representatives. They speak. They are supposed to speak the wishes of the people. And therefore, as the elected representatives have decided to come together and form an opposition-less government, we see some positivity in this. though it may be premature to pass comments over it.
Coming to you, Mr. Therieh, why is it shocking to you? Why do you think that opposition-less government is not required? Why are you not happy?
Mr. Wasbir, in democratic state, we need opposition, we need ruling. Their job is to run a good governance and to deliver goods to the people. They have to stand by their mandate. The manifesto, the program which they have announced to the people, on which manifesto they have been voted to power. They should deliver to the people. They should run governance. They should maintain law and order. And they should run the affair of the state. But if all of them join the same party, then the essence of democracy is defeated. That is why I said this is shocking.
But don't you think that this is they have embarked on this idea, they have embarked on this move because of an extraordinary situation. They want to send out a message that unity among political parties is extremely important, and similarly the Naga national groups or the Naga rebel groups also must follow the same example. Don't you think it was meant for that?
I disagree with that. They can maintain their own political stand. They can have their own principle and approach, their strategy. But at the same time, they can facilitate. At the same time, even the political group, they have their own principles, ideology and policy. Their approach may be different. Whatever is the demand of the group is placed before the government of India. It is for the government of India to decide. Government of India will take a call. And we have only one interlocutor. Mr. R.N. Ravi is the interlocutor. He is being mandated to negotiate with Naga political group for and on behalf of the government of India. And if he said that the formal political talk is over, after 21 months, why the government of India cannot take a call and deliver what they have promised? This is the problem. Political parties, Naga negotiators, they may have their own difference of approach. Whatever may be their approach, they have placed their demands before the government of India. There's bound to be differences. The differences in the political parties is the essence of democracy. We have to learn to live with differences.
All right.
So that ultimately we will be able to bring out what is common.
Let me bring in
what
Mr.
is acceptable
I'm coming
to
to you.
everyone.
I am coming to Dr. Mao, but let me bring in Mr. Laji Luyanba. Mr. Laji Luyanba, do you agree with what Mr. Therieh has said? He said that democracy is important, so opposition has to be there in a democracy. And he is also saying that after the interlocutor has said that the talks are over, why has the agreement not been signed? But who is responsible for this? We know that there are issues within the negotiating parties. How do you look at it?
I couldn't say I agree with all his supplementing points. Partially, I agree with it. In regard of the political parties coming together, we rather should appreciate. Sometimes we have to take every negative ingredients into positive ingredients in order to do good things. When we only big point on negative aspects of life, we will tend to fall back again. And at this time of Nagas, we can term it as a crucial hour, where participation of every small and big, tall and short is required to come together to build better future for Nagas as a whole. And in regard to the second point that points out for the agreement, that too agreed, because we were being told long time back, like he mentioned, the only thing that wanders in our head is what was the reason behind the delay of signing an agreement. When we were told that all the things have been settled prior to that deadline given by the government. So I think it's high time when the political parties, irrespective of their political ideological differences, and the national workers, irrespective of their differences, agreeing to come together and work for a better cause. I think there's no issue, and then we should actually appreciate for their positive approach. That's my point.
Dr. Xaviar Mao, you know, there are very interesting perceptions here. There definitely, Therieh has a contrary view. Therieh is saying that the leader of the Naga Tribes Council, Mr. Therieh is saying that when the interlocutor has said that 21 months ago that the talks were over, and now we are raising questions as to, some of the panelists are raising questions as to why, if the talks were over, the agreement has not been signed. But is it so difficult to understand as to why the agreement is not signed?
Well, Wasbir, until the final conclusion or final settlement, there should be convergent thinking, form the divergent thinking, and even apply horizontal, vertical, and holistic thinking. Therefore, with this kind of adjustment, I think proper settlement can be reached. Otherwise, if one takes a very rigid stand, this is already done and not beyond this. This kind of rigid stand will be a serious block for the final conclusion. Therefore, different ways of thinking should be applied, and one's mind should be ever open. Where any lacking, where any defect, where any possible obstacle, all these things should be seriously thought of. Therefore, from the divergent thinking, one has to come to the convergent thinking, and even from the vertical thinking, one has to come even to the horizontal thinking.
Okay,
we can bring
Professor,
about
hold your
a
thoughts.
holistic thinking.
Let me go to, you're talking about a holistic thinking. Let me go to Mr.
Otherwise, yeah.
Right. Let me go to Mr. Ndang. Mr. Ndang, you know, is it not true that, you know, who has said that the talks ended? There was no official communication, isn't it? That nobody said officially that the Naga peace talks are over. Now, a lot of people are saying that, you know, why should the NSCN-IM raise the issue of flag and constitution after everybody has said that the talks are over? But my question to you, are you aware of any official communication? Was there an official statement by anybody in the government of India or the Naga negotiating groups that the talks have ended?
You see, this particular question of formal talks is creating lots of confusion in the society. Particularly on this, it is not the Naga people to be responding, giving you the answer. We have been demanding from the government of India to make its position clear on this. How, if the formal talks is over as claimed, why is several rounds of talks taking place every now and then here in Dimapur and in Delhi? This is where the role of the interlocutor is also questioned. We have also appealed to the government of India to clarify its position. Because for all these years, there had been serious talks, and all of a sudden, it has been said that the formal talks is over. It has not gone down well with the people.
But who said that? Is it the
Therefore,
media? Who said that?
This is our since.
Yeah, but Mr. Ndang, who said that? Is it
Could
the
be
media?
the media. Could be the media.
Yeah, but in this kind of serious negotiations, see, the negotiations are going on for the last 24 years. You know it better. Now, for somebody to say that negotiations are over, it has to come from officially from the government, isn't it?
Exactly. There is no official communication or statement as such. I have not seen.
So that is the point. Mr. Therieh, you are saying that talks ended in October 2019. 21 months have gone, almost 2 years ago. Now the point is, NSCN-IM has made it very clear with their chairman, Mr. Tuku, giving a clear-cut statement saying that flag and constitution are our core issues and we cannot sign or we will not sign any agreement unless and until the flag and constitution is conceded or granted to the Naga people. That is the stand. That stand stands. There is no change as far as we know so far. Then what can the core committee achieve? The 2 meetings that had taken place, what can you hope that these meetings will lead to now if the NSCN do not change their stand? Mr. Therieh.
As far as I know, there is only one interlocutor who has the mandate to negotiate with the Naga political group. And the interlocutor stated that 31st October 1919, the formal talk is over. He has given his statement several times. And now when the formal talk is over, we're expecting that government of India will take a call. As far as the role of the core committee is concerned, facilitation is welcome. But when the opposition leader Theja says that the negotiators and the 60 MLAs will sit together, that means NSCN-IM working committee and 60-member house will sit together. To me, I find this is unqualified, unreasonable. Because we cannot bring down the status of the talk to the purview of the Nagaland Legislative Assembly. Himanta Biswas, the Chief Minister of Assam, have made his statement very clearly. He said that I have taken oath to protect and defend the sovereignty and integrity of India. I cannot talk to Parvis Bora because he is talking sovereignty. The same thing is our elected members. They have taken oath. They cannot become a party to the negotiation. They cannot bring down the negotiators to the level of the MLAs.
No, are you saying?
To me, I think this is...
Mr. Laji Luyanba, Mr. Theja has come up with a very strong point. He said that, Mr. Theja has come up with a very strong point. He has said that the MLAs have taken oath to defend the unity, integrity and sovereignty of India. That is the oath every elected representative takes. Now, how can there be a party to the talks? How do you look at this? Do you think, therefore, do you think the elected representatives have no role?
Well, to my concern that legislatures, they are not a negotiating member. They are just trying to facilitate the Naga peace process because they represent the people of Nagaland. And being the representative of Naga as a whole, they know the hardship and sufferings of the peoples of Nagas. So it is the prerogative responsibility, and it becomes the duties and obligations to look after the welfare of its people. So coming together in one platform, that does not make sense that they are a negotiator. They can be termed as a facilitator, and being sworn in under the Constitution of India, they can always do the needful for the people because they are supposed to work for the people. So working for the people, that does not demean and goes against the Constitution. That is what I believe.
All right, we'll go for a short break. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Let me go straight to Mr. Laji Luyanba. Mr. Laji Luyanba, now the challenge is, now everybody is expecting the core committee to sit together with all the negotiating parties, minus, of course, the government of India. But, there are opposition to some of these ideas that what is the role of the state legislature, as Mr. Theja said that these legislators have taken oath. How do you look at it?
We cannot expect that the lion will always chase the deer, or the tiger will always chase the deer. There is always a good side where we can see in certain cases they are good friends also. We cannot assume every differences as enemy angles, from the angle of enmity. Sometimes differences in angle may turn into a positive ingredients towards a strong relationship. And then coming together as a negotiator, as a facilitator by the core committee, it seems it's a great and bold steps taken by them. And then at the same time, the willingness of the national workers, irrespective of their differences, that there is no differences among them as of now. That is a very positive point. So when they come together, it may be viable enough for, may be viable enough for them to move forward, and then state legislature as a representative of the people, they can always represent us and then talk allowed for the community as a whole to the central level to expedite the peace process at the earliest.
True. Let me take the view of Mr. Ndang on this. Mr. Ndang, do you think the Naga political groups, the Naga national workers, the NNPGs and the NSCN-IM, do you think they will sit across the table? How likely such a possibility is? Do you think that is possible? Do you think they are going to meet?
I think we should look forward with all positive attitude. It may not be necessary for us to be too negative.
No, but now that, are you hopeful? Are you hopeful of a meeting?
Obviously, why not? When the people so demands and when the people so desires to let the Naga political groups come together, definitely we look forward that they will be meeting across the table.
Is it necessary for the Naga political groups to resolve their differences and resume the dialogue with a single voice. How important is that?
Well, if we are to talk of one solution, one people, definitely everyone has to be taken into confidence. All the groups has to be on board and sign a final agreement.
No, the point is, Mr. Theja, the point is, we are all saying that everybody should set their differences. Now the NSCN has said we have no differences, the NNPGs have said no, we have no differences. But does it mean that the NSCN will or should adopt a give and take approach? Do you think the NSCN will ever give up their demand for a flag and a constitution? Do you think that will continue to be the stumbling block?
No, they have made themselves very clear. The NNPGs and the NSCN-IM, they made themselves very clear. They have no differences. If they wish to come together and sit together, they are competent to do so. As a civil organization, as a political party, the people's representative, we can appeal, we can facilitate. But they should take a call whether or not to come together, because the conflict, political conflict, is with the government of India, not among the Naga political group. Any group will present our case before the government of India, our points of demands. And it is for the government of India to take a call, what is possible and what is not possible. If the interlocutor, who is the official representative of the government of India, mandated by the Prime Minister of India, if he says that formal talk is over, and if we go around and talk, it's only a consultation. It's only a consultation. If they're serious, they should go back to negotiation table. There's only one negotiation table, and they should hammer out. And they should make themselves very clear.
Right.
If they cannot proceed, they have every right to come back to the people and revisit the mandate, because they represent the people.
No,
Ultimately, at the end, it is not the NSCN-IM or it is not the working committee who will take the final decision. It is the people who will take the final decision. If the people reject, this agreement cannot land. If people accept, then this agreement will land on the ground and can be implemented.
But to ask you a straight question, Mr.
We should
Theja,
take people into confidence.
to ask you a straight question, Mr. Theja, who so far has asked the people? Who have asked the common ordinary Nagas so far? Has anybody talked to the ordinary Nagas so far? Is it the government of India? Is it the NSCN-IM? Is it the NNPGs? Have they talked to the ordinary Naga people? What do they think? Have anybody tried to seek their opinion?
No, one-to-one with the grassroots people, the common individuals, it is impossible. But they all have reached out to the people through a collective organizations, as civil bodies, tribal bodies.
Right.
And people by now is very clear of what is being negotiated. And people also know what is expected. And now the ground is ready to accept the solution.
Okay.
But ultimately, the final decision lies with the people, and it is the negotiating parties who should bring everything to the people and let the people accept it.
Right. Now Dr. Xaviar Mao, do you suddenly get a sense that the entire dialogue process has somehow shifted to the political level in the state? Do you think, as Mr. Theja said, it has suddenly gone to the state legislature, and Mr. Therieh has asked a question: how do you expect the MLAs, to work towards a solution, because they have taken oath to protect the sovereignty and integrity of India? That also brings into a question, who is talking about sovereignty now? Is it a practical demand? Is it a practical idea today? Or when you negotiate, do you think there has to be a give and take approach? How, these are 2-3 broad questions to you, very quickly. Please speak straight to the point.
Well, I cannot hear you very well, so I did not catch your question. So only partial I could hear, but whatever I could hear, well, the solution cannot be sectarian or factional. It should be holistic. And the fact that stalemate is there, that clearly shows
no, let me
very,
please
very
adjust the volume of Dr. Mao, increase the volume. Dr. Mao, do you think, can you hear me first of all? Can you hear me, Dr. Mao? No, we have got a very bad line with Dr. Xaviar Mao. We have got a very bad line. Mr. Ndang, suddenly, do you feel that the dialogue process has shifted to the state legislature somehow?
I don't think so, because the state legislatures have come in to facilitate. You see, it is known to everyone that the talks have been dragging on for so long. And after all, the elected representatives of the people, they cannot remain silent. They also must ensure that an honorable and acceptable solution is arrived at the earliest. Secondly, it has been in the common minimum program, every political parties have mentioned that they will pursue for early political solution. And therefore, there is nothing wrong in the elected representatives coming in to facilitate. We cannot expect them to play the role of a negotiator.
Yeah.
But if there is any gap, differences between the negotiating groups, the Naga political groups and the government of India, they have every reason to come in between and bridge the gap. And we are hopeful.
Right. Dr. Mao, can you hear me? First of all, Dr. Xaviar Mao, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
You cannot hear me. Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
No, Dr. Xaviar Mao can't hear me. Yeah, that is the big question, Mr. Laji Luyanba. That is the big question now is, Mr. Laji Luyanba, is the fact that we are talking about the legislators playing the role of facilitator. But let us ask a very simple and straight question. Do you think unless the differences among the Naga rebel groups are resolved, do you think the resumption of the dialogue with the government of India will be useful?
It is present to that when the leaders of the people are coming together, it is obvious that those national workers will also listen to it. And then even in case of any differences, it will be obvious that people will always pursue and long for that peace and unity only. And then in case of those unwilling to come together, there may not be a cushion of as such, because people's desire now is to come together as one. As of now, until and unless both the parties come into terms and understand the reality, ground reality, sitting across the table, nothing can sort it out as desired by the people. So it is high time and it is need of an hour for them to sit together. So they should agree with the people, and they should also understand that it is a desire of the people for them to sit together.
No, but let us. But Mr. Ndang, whenever we discuss a sensitive issue like the Naga issue, there is a tendency to play safe. We always want to be politically correct. But is it not a fact? Is it not a fact that the NSCN-IM even today is sticking to their demand of a flag and a constitution? Don't you think that is a precondition? Because the core committee has appealed to the negotiating parties to resume the dialogue without any preconditions. Do you think the Naga national groups, do you think NSCN-IM is going to listen to them?
You see, Wasbir, when we come to the issue of flag and constitution, it all goes back to the signing of the framework agreement. Now, why the issue of flag and constitution has been debated all over again and again? It is because the content of the framework agreement have not been explained to the people in the way it was agreed between the two parties. Government of India have its own interpretation. The NSCN-IM have its own interpretation. Now, can the public, can the people come in between and explain this framework agreement? Why? No, whom to blame now? Whom to blame? Is it the NSCN-IM or the government of India? Now, on what basis they have come up with the framework agreement? Everyone says that framework agreement does not mention about flag and constitution. But to my understanding, the framework agreement is a parameter where within that framework agreement, things will be worked out and competencies will be framed. But now, word by word, everyone have started interpreting. This is where the Naga political issue is dragging on and shifting blame from one to another. The government of India must explain to the people what was transpired, what was agreed upon within that framework agreement. And the government of India should not mislead the people further.
Professor Mao, what do you think? Is it interpretation and reinterpretation of the framework agreement that is particularly behind the stalemate?
Yeah, I feel that a lot of people have a misunderstanding. Framework agreement should be understood as a skeletal, broad framework, and the details can be put later on during the negotiation. That is only a guiding principle or a road map. Therefore, a lot of people do not understand. Therefore, they think this is not there, that is not there. This is complete misunderstanding. So the content of even constitution or all other things can be worked out.
All right. All right. Mr. Theja, I'm running out of time. What do you really expect in the days ahead? How do you see the road ahead now? Because now the two big developments have taken place. One is the core committee has been able to meet all the political parties, that means who are relevant in Nagaland, whether it is the ruling party, whether it is the opposition. They have come forward to facilitate. They have even forward to come with an opposition-less government. Do you think the Naga rebel groups must resolve their differences and then restart the talks? Do you think only then things will move forward? Otherwise, this will be just, again, we'll forget about the present developments.
See, Mr. Wasbir, the fact of the matter is the people have given our mandate to the negotiators, both NSCN-IM and NNPGs. they are negotiating with the government of India. And both the group says, as and when government of India calls, we will participate. And they say that they have no differences with each other. If the need arises, they can come together. We have made our appeal that if there's any differences, it should be resolved. And if there's a differences, they should resolve. But for us to give a precondition that before talking with the government of India, you must have a roundtable meeting. That's a precondition. When the talk is formally over, we are now saying that it should be resumed. What is there to be resumed? I think
So, we are
taking the talk back to square one.
Mr.
I think we have given our
Mr.
mandate
Ndang and
let them
Therieh on the
negotiate.
frame.
And if they have any difficulty, they will come back to the people. Till such time, let them work with their mandate. There's only one negotiating table. And any differences must be discussed across that table, not in the media, not in the open air. It has to be with the representative of the government of India,
Okay,
the one
Mr.
who is mandated.
All right,
If we have any problem, then we should raise.
Right,
We have every right to take our position.
Mr. Ndang,
But
Mr.
we must
Ndang,
hammer out
right, Mr. Ndang,
from the place where negotiation is
right,
taking place.
please, Mr. Ndang, there are definitely two very, very strong opinions among the Naga civil society. Mr. Theja Therieh is saying, what is there to resume because talks are over. How do you respond?
See, as I have stated earlier, I am not convinced that the formal talks is over because talks are still taking place, consultations are on to go for final round of agreement. With the IB in the center, they have come in to clear the way for final talks. So I have not seen, except from the media reports, that the formal talks are over. And when the key issues are not being resolved, I think formal talks have not come to an end. There's still a space.
So I am running short of time. Final comments, Laji, Luyanba. Theja Therieh of the Naga Tribes Council saying there is nothing to resume. Talks are over and now it's time to be pragmatic and sign on the dotted lines. But that is not the view of the Naga HOHO. Where do you stand?
Until and unless the final agreement is signed, we can assume that still the dog is alive. And then there's a room for negotiation. So before the final inking of the agreement, everything should be come into the broad base, into the domain of the civil societies, whether that things will accept or not. That should be the main context only. And we should not be hasty in making an agreement also. Hasty makes some decisions wrong also. So time taking may be troublesome for the people also. But we should somehow take into consideration that it will come out good result. Because
Absolutely.
we cannot afford another 16-point agreement, another 9-point agreement, which was partially not implemented. So this time, whatever the agreement is made, it should be implemented fully without any
Mr.
defect.
Luyanba, yes, nobody expects another 16-point agreement or 9-point agreement or the 1975 Shillong Accord and so on. This has been a fresh beginning that started in 1997 with the ceasefire and the beginning of the talks. It has been 24 years since the Naga dialogue has been going on. It was the NSCN-IM. Now in the last 3 to 4 years, the 7-member NNPGs are part of the dialogue process. There are definitely two distinct opinions even today. Even in this panel, with just 4 members, there are 2 opinions. There is one opinion says that the dialogue is alive, differences should be sorted out, and talks should be proceed, and so that an acceptable solution can be found out. There is another opinion saying that talks are over, and where is the scope for resuming? At the end of the day, there are efforts to reach a common ground by taking a middle path to all these divergent opinions and work out an acceptable solution. The process will go on since it has gone on for decades, and now one can expect it will go on for some more time until people come around and accept something that is reasonable and acceptable and honorable to the Naga people. I thank all my panelists for participating in this discussion and the viewers for watching the show. Good night and goodbye.